We are gathered here today to share information about presidential candidate Mike Bloomberg. Specifically, we're going to be talking about two things. One, his environmental and climate record of accomplishments, and two, his environmental and climate plans that he's released as a presidential candidate. Now, I've been working on climate and energy issues for almost 2 decades, believe it or not, and I can easily say that I've never seen a presidential candidate with an environmental record as strong as Mike Bloomberg has. Through both his time as New York mayor and through his actions with the Bloomberg Foundation, Mike has been deeply involved in battling climate change and getting real results. There are a lot of accomplishments that I could talk about, but the one that I'm most impressed by is his work to help retire dirty coal-burning power plants across the country. Mike's foundation has funded environmental campaigns across the country aimed at getting us off coal. And since 2011, those efforts have resulted in more than 300 coal plants announcing their retirement. That is well over half of the entire coal fleet in this country. Retiring coal plants leads to cleaner air and healthier Americans, while also creating market space for clean solar and wind energy. That is happening across the country, and it's happening right here in Arkansas. As a presidential candidate, Mike has fantastic plans to move us to 100% clean power, 100% clean buildings, and 100% clean transportation. Now, we're going to be talking about all those things in detail today, but the bottom line is this. Mike Bloomberg is committed to battling climate change. He's done it as a mayor, he's done it as a private citizen, and he's going to make it a priority as President of the United States. And that's why I'm supporting him.
And thank you, Glenn, for inviting me to this roundtable. And I'm also privileged to share this table with all of those and other invited guests. I would say the thing that has inspired me to want to be at tables like this throughout the country and even throughout the world is the fact that whenever I hear a agency or individual or even a campaign that's centered around environmental justice, it draws me to the table. And one of the things that drew me to this table was when I was able to look at Mike's campaign around environmental justice and how it was connected to the communities I represent in many of these spaces, and that many of these tables are the frontline communities, such as the communities on the waterfront and the Gulf Coast, and also on the eastern and western shores of this country. Those communities are suffering. They're the first to feel the impact of climate change. They're the first to experience climate emergencies because they are having their communities ruined by these atrocities that we see happening because of weather changes. These frontline communities are seeking for candidates who are running for office to begin to rethink what policies need to be rewritten, to rethink how we consider making profit from a corporate standpoint, to also rethink what we call development. And there are 2 types of development that needs to happen right now, and Mike's plan puts us in the position, looking at 100% renewable energy, to think about redevelopment in a way that doesn't rebuild these frontline communities by being dependent upon fossil fuel or dependent upon old ways in which we understand power, but redevelopment in the context of building new cities, building new frontline communities, in the context of renewable energy, in the context of sustainability, in the context of zero waste. And I think that that's one of the things that drew me to this table. And it's one of the things that I bring from those whom I know firsthand on the frontline communities who are experiencing every day when they have to recover. The other thing that brings me to the table is also the issue of poverty, because a lot of times communities that are the poorest also have the hardest time dealing with environmental issues in their own backyard. They can't relocate, they can't leave their jobs and find other jobs because of their situation. And those communities need their infrastructure addressed in a way that's radical. And Mike's plan offers some radical alternatives to those communities who can't relocate, who have to stay where they are, but need wealth to make their places safer and also more in agreement with the issues that we're facing every day as it relates to climate justice. So the poor and the frontline communities, as well as the indigenous communities, are what have inspired me to join this table.
We talked about environmental justice, and that's one of the things that I think brings faith-based people to this issue. As an individual, I see environmental issues from a faith-based stewardship perspective. The faith traditions, the sacred writings of all faith traditions ask us to care for creation, protect the planet, and preserve fragile ecosystems that sustain life. So that's why people of faith are getting involved in environmental issues. Now, I've been watching Mike Bloomberg for several years with great admiration, because I think that he puts words into action. And I think that he has donated a considerable amount of his money where his priorities are. So I call that faith in action. I think that he is courageous and speaks with a prophetic voice about what we need to do in the United States and across the world so that we can attain justice, environmental justice throughout the world. So I've watched what he's done to help us close down coal burning power plants right here in Arkansas, and what he's done to support clean renewable energy movement, and I think that's the kind of leadership that we need right now. So I'm happy to be a part of this effort to support Mike Bloomberg's candidacy. So thank you so much.
I agree with what Glenn said, that I don't know that I've ever seen a presidential candidate as big an advocate for the environment, and for especially on, I still call it global warming. Because I truly believe that's what it is, but we'll for the sake of argument say climate change now. But a couple of things. When I first started to work with Pew, April Ambrose is sitting right back here too, and she knows that we went around the state holding some seminars in several different cities around here, trying to raise awareness about global warming. And I think we made a lot of progress here in Arkansas, but things sort of dropped off since then. It was back in, this was in 2006, 7, somewhere around in there. And what I would say is that I think if we, in Mike's campaign, can bring this forward again, I think people in Arkansas are willing to listen and get it, really. We just need to have the awareness of it raised, and I think he does a great job of that. Then I want to turn on my little cheat sheet here just a second here. And I want to switch to, as Glenn said, I was the mayor of Clinton for a while, and while I was the mayor, I was appointed to the EPA National Advisory Council for Environmental Policy and Technology, and I was on there with the mayor of Los Angeles, and the mayor of Beaverton, Oregon, and the mayor of a couple of other cities, and here I was from little bitty Clinton, Arkansas, and they appointed me the chairman of the cities group, but I was really glad that they did, because from that, I was able to get across the point that, look, you know, when environmental laws are written, they're written for Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Little Rock, and those of us in small communities, you know, like I am, part-time mayor and full-time job but part-time pay, but. We need some, we care about it too, and we need some ability to help bring our community up to the standards that we need to be. And so what I really like about it, I'm looking at his plan right here, the Climate Safe Communities Program, where he wants to help states, cities, territories, tribes, so forth, but program to include funding for community leaders and community-based organizations to develop plans. And that's what we need to do. Really, you know, the former mayor in North Little Rock was a great leader in global warming, climate change, and the people in cities are the ones that are getting it done. We're not getting a lot of leadership from our state folks, and so I really appreciate what I see that Mike wants to do, and that is to help us. We have a lot of really good leaders in cities in this state, and I'd like to see that part of his program really come to fruition too. That's why I'm here.
It's good to talk last because I could almost just say, I agree with what everybody else said and we can move on. But of course, as a politician, I'm not going to do that. But sorry.
We may not get that mic back.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I feel like as a private citizen and as a legislator, it's my duty to look into these issues that are so important. And I know this is one of the most important issues in my district. And I think these people, I respect them a lot, and when they say these things and you need to look at these plans, it matters to me because I know the work that they've all done. So I started studying all these issues and everything. You know, one of the things that sticks out first to me is that Mike Bloomberg, as a I'm not going to be able to say it now. Yeah. Now it's even worse. In his philanthropic endeavors, I'll say it that way, he doesn't have to do this, but he's been doing it. He has a record of it, and that was before he decided to run for president. So this is something that we know is truly important to him, and he doesn't have to spend the money that he has on these issues. There are many other ways to spend it, yet he does that and has a good record on it. Having lived in Arkansas my whole life and been a teacher in Kingston, Arkansas, in northwest Arkansas near the Buffalo River, I grew up in Hot Springs. Here in Little Rock, we've got some beautiful places. It's also, the environmental issues are quality of life issues to me. We have one of the most beautiful states and resources of anybody in the nation. I would put them up against anyone, and these issues are important regarding that. We've also recently, with our highway tax in the legislature, we have attached to that was a hybrid and electric car registration fee that's one of the top 3 highest in the nation. And that to me is really unfair and wrong and unjust in a lot of ways when people are trying to do the right thing and to make our environment better. So I believe that leadership at the top matters, and I think that that's what we're seeing from Mr. Bloomberg at this juncture and in his endeavor to run for president of the United States.